Hey there, Christopher. Pretty good sketch. Similar to some of your entries from before. Yeah, I feel like you are giving me like some ideas and just kind of maybe asking me like how they could be improved, how you could build on it, how you could make a more solid arrangement, right? Rather than sending me something that is completely finished. So, first thing, you probably noticed that your looks quite different than what you sent me, and that's because I actually just stuck both images together. I just kind of tweaked everything so that it would be one long file. So see if you can figure out a way to make your notation application work with this full screen aspect ratio of I guess what are the measurements? I think I had 747 millimeters to 420, which is I guess 16 to 9. Okay. All right. So, but let's not get distracted by layouts. So I was listening to your mock-up there, and I was thinking about a few things, and I thought that it was interesting that you really stuck to the to the natural horns, kind of open pitches. I thought that that was a nice use of them, bringing them in later on. But having said that, I feel that the dynamics are really kind of undermarked, right? You're having your horns and trumpets and coming in with like no markings on them, right? So we don't know how loud they should be, right? The players don't know and the conductor doesn't know. And then here, I'm kind of not sure what's going on here dynamically. You have a crescendo marking over the flute, and then you have a crescendo hairpin under the flute. So like both of these are like one of these is superfluous, right? So you could probably get rid of the one on top. And then shouldn't all of these parts get that same crescendo? Shouldn't the strings get that same crescendo? And then if you're going to bring in your brass and then the timpani at forte here, shouldn't everything be crescendo to forte, right? Well, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, so the thing that I was most concerned about was a kind of a lack of harmonic direction in a few bars, right? So here you're starting out with just this like pedal F hanging on, which is kind of a cool idea. And then you have flute playing da 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 da. Okay, and then there's no harmonic change here. It's just it's just the flute playing against a drone. So the problem that we get into is da 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 da. There's none of that referential harmony that Beethoven has built into the bottom part of the right hand. So you could have easily brought that in with you've got oboe and clarinet, and they're not doing anything. So these are single parts. People, just to remind people watching. So so Christopher, you didn't choose to double your winds, right? So they're just single wind, but you have two horns, two trumpets, and so on, tenor trombone. Yeah, so I just really felt the lack of that harmony part at the bottom of the right hand. It really, just really could have been great right in here. And then when we get to the turn here, the turn seems to have been left out, but that's really, really an important feature of the line. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. So if your notation application doesn't understand it, like in terms of the playback, or if I would just say just write it in, so just go B, C B A B D C. You know what I mean? So that you really get that little turn in there. That's not leaving it out. It's really important. And oops, hang on. And then we go to like the entrance of the main theme. Da 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 da. Okay, so did you watch my 12 common scoring errors video? You seem to have neglected my caution, just really strong caution against dropping the the slurring from the piano part onto the winds and strings, and just assuming that that will be enough, right? Because the players, like here, you're asking the player to bow this all under one bow, right? So they would be going down, up, and then here we have this huge long 2-bar slur, down, right? So it's really, you're robbing yourself from the ability of the players to have a more smooth, even line. You'd say, well, you might think, well, I mean, I'm making it as smooth as possible, aren't I, by having the longest slurs possible? Not really, right? Because you want an evenness of tone. So like the length of the players will adjust for strength as they play a long bow on something. But the more that they do that, the more that it messes with their their ability to adjust the speed of the bow and to do all, to have a more even tone all the way through, right? So it would be better for you to go like a slur here with these two notes, like up, and then maybe here you could go down, up, down, right? So I'm not saying that you should mark the up bow and the down bow marks, but I'm just saying you should plan, right? So you put a slur here, that's up bow. You put a slur there, that would be a down bow, and then you put another slur here, that would be an up bow, right? So up, down, and then just leave this one with no slur on it, up, and then you could just do these in pairs. So slur this, slur that, and then maybe slur these 3 pitches here, right? So then you end up with up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? So seriously, Christopher, just don't drop the slurs from the piano part onto your string parts, and just call it done, right? Now, like going into this, you have this sort of interesting thing happening here, with your clarinet and bassoon at like a double octave apart, right? And then this makes it into a triple octave with the viola part in between the bassoon and the clarinet, right? And then the doubling at the top with the clarinet and the violins. So the audience will hear this, right? The doubling of the clarinet with the violin, and they will also hear when the clarinet completely drops out, right? So maybe that's not coming through in your mock-up, but it absolutely will be in concert, right? They'll hear this mixed tone, da da, and then suddenly it'll just be violins, da 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 da, with the clarinet going boo boo doo 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 doo. I'm not so sure that you need this sort of strange kind of like bump ta 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 ta. So I mean, if you're going to adopt this pattern, then why isn't it being played on, or why isn't it being added to these other parts here? And then here you've got your oboe and your bassoon parts just basically doing the same thing. And then like right in here, the Beethoven has got a C7th in the harmony, right? So we got our B flat, right? That's our 7th, and then we've got the C and the G. That's the 1 and the 5 of the chord, and so on. And we got another B flat here. Yeah, 3 in a row. Pretty stacked there. So, I mean, the problem here is that you've got your oboe just like dancing up and down to that middle C. And a good player would have no problem with that, except it's not going to make this low note any softer. Like they'll be able to pop it out, but you've given us no dynamic markings, right? So we don't know how loud this is supposed to be, right? If we assume that it's soft, that you're saying, well, piano dolce, right? So this should be piano 2, right? And so should this, right? So if we're assuming that this is also piano, then you really are giving the player that has a part where they will have to finesse the control. They just will really have to think about it. And, you've got your clarinet here, which you started off with this pattern. The clarinet would be brilliant at this. So why isn't the clarinet continuing, right? Here it's like you really have to study the registers of the instruments and their capabilities, right? So like pushing the oboe down into its bottom register where it has less control has a tendency to sort of honk a little bit more. With a student player and maybe a community semi-pro player, you might get a lot of honking down there, right? And the same thing, possibly. It's like the bassoonists will have a lot more control on their lowest notes, but there is a possibility with a less experienced player that they will have a tendency to, like, these low notes will have a tendency to stand out a bit. So you need to rethink this. I still don't understand why we have this clarinet setting up this pattern here, which suddenly goes to oboe. Right? Why? Is it so that you have this leggermente thing happening in the clarinet and you don't have don't worry about that. Like, the clarinet player can pop this out right after playing the pattern. That's no problem at all. Okay, but the main problem here is that, like, right here, like, you kind of get carried away with this whole C7 thing, but the harmony here is not a C7th, is it? Right? So if you look in the piano part, like, Beethoven goes to an octave F's here, right? And then he's throwing in these really cool harmonized notes, right? So B flat, A, he's walking down, and then he gets to an F6, F, and D, and that's all harmonizing with these pitches right in here. So I think you missed this huge opportunity, Christopher, by not paying attention to the proper pattern of the left hand in the score. And then the same thing here, right? The way that Beethoven brings this phrase to this beautiful end with with everything sort of tracking at a tenth, right? And then, but here, like, we just have these fifths just going bonky, 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 bonky. This is the thing that I completely didn't understand, is why we have an E here when the harmony, is completely different, right? So I feel that you oversimplified here just drastically, and I think it hurt your arrangement a bit, right? So I think you need to go back and rethink this and just really pay attention to the source material right in here. Now, this was really nicely done. And I felt like the way that you scored it, you didn't need any harmonic support, and this was I was a little worried about this right here, because this is an answer from below, right? So this sets up a contrast between these two lines, right, or these two statements, right? Sort of like a call and response, and they're sort of in different registers, right? So it sets up this really nice like contrast between the two, right? So I think here you would have been better off having your oboe an octave higher, so that the clarinet could answer it in this register. So if you're having your clarinet come in and go yap-up-up-up-oh, right? And to be completely honest about this, like, if you're going to score it this way, the clarinet could have been an octave lower, right? Because it can easily hit A an octave lower, right? That as a low note, that is no problem at all, right? So I think that one way or another, these two statements here needed to be further apart, much further apart in terms of their register. And then here, like, I have this concern: emphatic color of line, harmonic density, setting up the next thing. All right, so da da da. I'm not so sure why we have the F going da 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 ba da 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 da. There's no problem at all with flute playing a high F here. Ba 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 ba, rather than da 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 ba da 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 da. I just, I mean, and then this da 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 ba da da. I don't understand this because, shouldn't we be walking up to the da 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 B flat, right? So where's the B flat? It's right here, like 2 octaves higher, right? So we've got a lot, and then here we've got B flat in the tenor trombone an octave higher. So like like the lines are not really connecting correctly. Like you have things sort of put here and put there a little bit arbitrarily, right? So really follow like the motion of the lines and the position of the harmony and the changes of the harmony in the source score a lot more, and I think you would turn out really strong entries to like the basics of what you're doing here are strong, like the whole idea to have this beautiful smooth melody right in here in the strings, with a little bit of pulsing in the cello and this nice back and forth in the winds. That is a strong idea. The way that this is, the choice of voices here, clarinet then bassoon, oboe then clarinet, that is strong, except for like, why is the clarinet answer so high, right? And then here, why are these lines tweaked around with and just kind of changed in their position and so on and so forth? There's a reason for the places that Beethoven has put them, right? So like, I mean, I can see like maybe you sort of started here on this F, ba-da-da, and then you sort of realized, oh, well, this will push this all the way down to a low B, which, technically flutists can play, but is like not a very strong register. So you must have thought, well, okay, we'll just take this up an octave. Well, then you should have taken this an octave higher too, right? So just like really, think about like what are the strengths of the source score. Now, like right in here, you have this kind of harmonic filling in here, the C B flat idea right in here. I mean that's cool, except for like you have the voice crossing with the melody, right? And then it ends up being much weaker than if it were like down 2 octaves, the way that it is in the source score, right? So just really watch out for those things. Really take your cues from what it is. Don't just reposition things in different ways as an experiment unless you really, unless that experiment is paying off, right? So but you did have some harmonic density. It did set this up nicely in terms of like textural strength. But like once again, we have a problem with the harmony. What's the harmony here? It is an F at the bottom, not a C, right? So like it's like here you're setting up like the everything to start off with like a 6/4 chord, right? So like if you're having the bottom note is the 5th of the root chord, right? And I mean I would have been happier with this motion, bum bum bum. You know what I mean? Just like why is this is like the bass line. So why isn't it in the bassoon and the cellos and the double basses? Now, why are they sitting on that C? And then here, da, 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 why isn't this harmonized, right? Like in Beethoven goes, C fourth, E third, F third, right? Just that, instead of being so spread apart, this harmonization should be much closer together. And this was kind of nice. Like you didn't throw in the bum, bum, you just had the bum, bum. You had these notes sort of repeating. Yeah, I thought that was very, very cool. Then da da da. So now here, like we have just kind of much more consistent scoring in the winds, answered by this. And then like pizzicato is not going to be very strong against forte, natural brass, and interspersed with timpani and tenor trombone. So it's I mean, it'll sort of work, but it doesn't really have a lot of, like the way that it's scored here, it doesn't have a lot of strength. So I mean, like there's this is sort of similar to other entries you've sent me, Christopher. I think that like just really like paying more attention to the architecture of the source score, and the some of the basics there. I think this would be an incredibly strong entry. This could have been like your best yet, right? So just really watch out for those things. Don't ignore the way that the harmony progresses, because it's such an important feature of orchestration. It's more than just taking pitches from the source score and putting them in different configurations, right? So the experimentation is great, but maybe play around with it a little bit more and compare it to the original performance. Think about elements that you're leaving out and whether leaving them out is weakening the effect and so on, right? But I mean, having said all that, I mean, I do think that you have a lot of great ideas, right? I just think that they need a little bit more organization and a little bit more cohesion, right? Just maybe studying some more harmony and studying the way that harmony works in an orchestral score. I would say go back to, since we're talking about Beethoven, go back to say the Second Symphony and maybe the Fourth and the Sixth, and I would say maybe the second and third movements of the Fifth Symphony, and just really study how Beethoven uses harmony, and also that arrangement that he did of the Ninth Piano Sonata for string quartet. Check that out and look at how he distributes the harmony in his score from the source piano. And of course check out the other entries here and see how they introduce certain things, because you could just the potential here was so great, Christopher. You could have made a couple little changes here and there, and it would have just sparked right off of this page. All right, so I'm going to give you a lot of points for the conception is the overall idea of the way that you wanted the colors and the sections to work together is really strong, right? So you need to match that strength with a little bit more attention to the source. All right, but great. I mean, this is the strongest thing you've ever sent me too. Having said all that, so keep it up, man. And the next the next entry, the next challenge, 2024 is going to throw you for a loop if you don't study some of those harmonic things. All right. So, and I would love to get another entry from you. So watch out for all that stuff. All right, man. But anyways, keep them coming, because it's so great to see your progress and to see your great ideas and to, see there's so much freshness to the way you're looking at things, right? So you just got to match that with a little bit of craft. Alrighty, well, great work. So I'm going to take a little break here, and then I'm going to go evaluate the next minimum entry for the 2023 Orchestration Challenge. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and please give Christopher some helpful comments below, some insights, some constructive advice. I think it would be really, really helpful. And Christopher, if you've got any thoughts for other scores in the challenge, would be really valuable. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.